Hey folks, Nathan here. This time we're taking a look at something that is from Kickstarter and is for a game that came from Kickstarter, but which in and of itself is not actually from that game's Kickstarter. Yeah, it's a little bit weird. We've taken a look already at Nemesis and its Wave 1 content. We will soon be taking a look at the Wave 2 content. We've also taken a look at the Adrestia promo item that was a promo basically for Nemesis that was playable with Lords of Hellas, both of which, of course, are from Awaken Realms. This here is a special promo deck of 10 cards for Nemesis that was not available at all through the Nemesis Kickstarter. Instead, this was available exclusively, at least for now. We're told it will be made available in some form someday otherwise, but exclusively as a timed exclusive from the Dice Tower 2019 fundraising Kickstarter. It was part of what's called Promo Pack a $50 promo pack, which is more like donating $50 and getting that promo pack as a reward, which was actually what Kickstarter was sort of designed to be rather than a pre-order place, but I digress. Part of Promo Pack A, which included promos with new cards for Nemesis and Lords of Hellas, both from Awaken Realms, and 7 other games in that promo pack. Now, prior to that Kickstarter actually delivering and fulfilling those promo cards to all of its backers, Dice Tower attended Gen Con 2019 and made some of those promo cards available early. I backed the pack on the Kickstarter. I was a bit irked that they were released early, but I went ahead and picked up a pack through eBay from someone who picked one up at Gen Con, because let's face it, I'm probably going to wind up wanting a backup set just in case, because they're not available through Awaken Realms, at least not yet. So what is this thing? This is the Crawl deck. You may recall that in the base game, you're very limited in your ability to use the technical corridors. Those tend to be able to be used only through certain things that happen with the intruders, unless you're the mechanic or have a particular item card. Instead, this allows any character to use the technical corridors, but typically at a price. It's dangerous to go into cramped spaces in the dark when you got a bunch of freaking aliens running around, which makes perfect sense. So, all the cards on their back show this. It is a non-combat action. It costs 1 action card. It says Crawl, it's the name of the deck. Then it says, if there's a technical corridor connected to this room, move to any other room connected to any technical corridor. Basically, you crawl through the vents and pop up in another room instead of having to go to adjacent rooms bit by bit by bit through the corridors. Before the noise roll, that's the roll that happens when you first enter the room to determine where the noise is going to be in the corridors around you and such, draw 1 card from the Crawl deck, which is this deck, and resolve its effect. After that, shuffle this Crawl card back into the Crawl deck, so it's not something that gets exhausted after 10 uses, since there's only 10 cards. Now, the cards all do different things, but they all have this on the back. So when you enter this into your game, essentially this is adding to the rules and letting you know that this is an option available. Since these aren't going to be available in the base game, I not only want to show you the individual cards, but what they actually say. What happens to you when you're trying to go through these events, especially since there's only 10 cards, it shouldn't take us too long. So, we have Dirty Scratches with the flavor text, another tear. This time a sharp piece of metal cut the skin deeply. Yeah, that's not good when you got all those intruders around and the whole issue of contamination. Sure enough, your character suffers 1 light wound, 3 of those will get you a serious wound, and gets 1 contamination card. Those screw up your hand by taking up spaces your action cards could be taking, and run the risk of you being infected, which could lead to death. Lack of oxygen. You lack air. Where is an exit? Hurry! Discard all action cards from your hand. That not only keeps you from being able to do actions, but also makes you vulnerable to surprise attacks, or more vulnerable. Larva. Something pale flashed in the corridor. You didn't have any time to react. Place a larva miniature on your character board. Your character gets 1 contamination card. Again, something that can lead to your death. Heavy wound. Something suddenly emerged from the darkness above you. You felt a deep sting. After a while, there is silence again. Only terrible pain remains. Your character suffers 1 serious wound. These are the types of wounds that, if not addressed, cause debilitating effects on your character. Crawling. The labyrinth of corridor seems to have no end. Discard 2 action cards, but no contamination cards, from hand, or 1 if you only have 1. So again, limiting your options and making you vulnerable to surprise attacks. Panic. A sudden murmur and movement in the dark was too much. The nerves were released, and the fingers squeezed the trigger himself. Yeah, your fingers a him? Yeah, whatever. If you have weapon in your hand, not a weapon in your hand, but if you have weapon in your hand, discard 2 ammo from it, or 1 if you only have 1. This is not action. Not an action. So you do not have action cost. So basically just freaked out, pulled the trigger, and now you're down some ammo, which could easily get you killed in an encounter with an intruder. Slime. Exactly what it sounds like. The corridor is smeared with a stinking substance which, like a cobweb, makes it difficult to move forward. You get a slime marker. Big shock. An egg. Something stinking and slimy clung to the ceiling. At this point, you can perform a pick heavy object action. That should obviously be a pick up heavy object action, as apparently these cards were not proofread very well. Action cost 1. To pick up 1 egg. If you took the egg, your character gets 1 contamination card. So it's a way to get an egg, which will, among other things, allow you to analyze it for an intruder weakness in the laboratory, but you do wind up getting contaminated in the process. Something in the slime. In the midst of the slime in the corridor, you can see the shape of an object. Is it worth reaching for this? You get a slime marker. Right, now that's either way. You can, and really those cans should probably be mays, you can draw 1 item card of any color. If you took this item, your character gets 1 contamination card. This is not an action, and you don't have to pay any action cost. Hey, that time they remembered the "and" in front of the word action. And finally, the one that's not going to bite you in the ass. Phew! Nothing happens. Game text, nothing happens. So it's an instance here of a non-essential add-on available outside of the Kickstarter, which, yes, is irking the hell out of all of us who went ahead and did the all-in pledge, because it means that all-in doesn't actually get you everything anymore. But it's an add-on that provides a nice risk versus reward type of scenario here, because in essence, you're putting yourself at risk because something bad's going to happen in pretty much every case of different levels of severity, except for that 1 card. You have a 10% chance of nothing happening. But of course, since these are shuffled back in, that level of risk doesn't wind up lowering as you draw more cards out of this and use more of them, because they just go right back into the deck to continue having it be a chance of 1 out of 10. But on the plus side, that ship can be rough to navigate if you know exactly where you want to go and it's far away. So in theory, you could take that little bit of risk, but basically jump through a technical corridor and pop out the other side to be able to get to a room that is either the room you want or closer to the one you want to make it easier to reach your goals in the game. I really like the risk versus reward aspect of this, but then again, I'm an economics teacher, so risk versus reward is kind of my thing. Personally, I'm glad I picked this up. It adds a nice element to the game. I do wish there was some way to pick it up at this point, outside of going through eBay from Gen Con releases, or through the Dice Tower Kickstarter, where you might have been like me and picked up a promo pack with promos for 9 games, only 1 of which you actually cared about. But that's where Board Game Geek comes in to sell those other ones off. And I would definitely agree that it is a bit irksome that this is outside of the all-in pledge before the all-in pledge was even delivered, and that Dice Tower made this available at Gen Con 2019 prior to actually fulfilling it to backers of the Kickstarter. But all those are just logistical things outside of the actual game use. From a game use standpoint, this is a pretty sweet little addition, and I'd recommend it to anyone who, like me, is a big fan of Nemesis. It's not a game breaker, but to a degree, it is a bit of a game changer, and I like that.